Hello and thank you for joining into my channel, Growth Seekers Club. I'm Kirsty and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to manage your emotions and cope with stress better. If you're interested in emotional mastery and personal growth content, then be sure to hit the subscribe button for fresh weekly content. Now let's get into today's video. So today I'm going to be talking to you about stress and how that looks in modern life. And then I'm going to be giving you just a few tips and tools that you can try out to help you manage your emotions and reduce stress in your life. So let's jump in and talk about what stress is. So we experience stress when we feel threatened in some way. And back in the day, the threats that caused us stress were more kind of life or death situations. Think being chased by ferocious wild animals or fighting with other tribes for resources. Whereas today, in our modern lives, we tend to experience stress more often. It's almost become like a part of our daily experience. And it has more to do with things like, for example, juggling multiple roles, being a parent but also working full time, or having a heavy workload, or even interpersonal conflict. So things look a whole lot different when it comes to stress today versus what they did many, many years ago. And so our bodies actually have this natural way of helping us to fight off threats or stress. And this is known as our fight or flight response. And it's an adaptive response. It's meant to help us in moments of stress, but sometimes it can become just a little bit too much and it can become really overwhelming. Which is why it's so important that we learn how to manage our emotions and regulate our stress levels. So let me give you a quick example. Let's say that you have to complete a really important task at work. And this task is really challenging and it makes you feel overwhelmed. It's almost like you don't even know where to start and you don't even know if you're going to be able to do this task, right? So what happens in this situation is that your stress levels can soar, and instead of approaching or fighting or facing that threat or stress, you actually will avoid it. And so you will flee from it, which can look like procrastination. And so in this situation, your fight or flight response, that stress response, is not as helpful as it would be if you were running away from a wild animal. So let's go back a little bit and let me explain a little bit more about that fight or flight response that I just mentioned. So when we feel stressed, our body's natural defense mechanism kicks in and our bodies release cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And this prepares us to either fight or to flee from the thing that's causing us stress. And so this is where you will experience some of those physical symptoms like the racing heart, sweaty palms, your pupils dilate, your breathing gets shallow, and you'll probably recognize some of these symptoms when you're feeling really overwhelmed. And so this is natural and it's meant to help us. But as in the example of having that really challenging work task, if this response is really intense, then it can be just too overwhelming and the way we respond is not that helpful. Like if you're avoiding your work tasks, right? It's not really going to help you in any way. It might help you in the short term to avoid that stress, but in the long term, it's actually going to create more stress for you because that's what procrastination does, right? And so being more aware of our stress response and how that all works, we can actually then look at ways to reduce that when it happens, so that we're not constantly in this state of fight or flight, and so that we avoid this kind of effect which happens when we're chronically stressed, where we experience one stressor after another, and that can start to have a detrimental effect on our well-being. Because if you don't learn to manage your stress response and your fight or flight mode gets activated often, and those cortisol or stress hormones stay in an elevated state, it can create inflammation in your body and make you ill, and it can also lead to the development of mental health conditions. So I think I've made my point why it is so important that we learn how to manage our stress and cope with those overwhelming emotions that come with it. And now I want to get into some strategies that you can use to actually regulate your emotions, to manage your emotions and reduce your stress levels. So my first tip when it comes to managing stress is deep breathing. So remember I said how when your fight or flight response kicks in, you have all these physiological symptoms, right? And one of those is that your breathing becomes really shallow and you kind of lose that oxygen flow because your body is prioritizing sending that oxygen to your muscles to get ready to fight or run away. So what we want to do with deep breathing is to increase that oxygen flow again and help to make you feel calmer. So the next time you feel really overwhelmed, just pause for a moment and try the following breathing exercise. So what you do is you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold your breath for a count of 4, and then you breathe out through your mouth for 6. So I'm just going to do it really quickly now. So do this a few times and you'll notice that you start to feel much calmer and more relaxed the more you're able to do this. My second tip for regulating your emotions is to try journaling. So when we're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, our thoughts can be kind of all over the place. We may tend to overthink things, and it's hard to find clarity and perspective when we're keeping all of our thoughts and feelings bottled inside. So journaling can actually help you to put all of your thoughts and feelings down on paper, and then you may be able to see things that you wouldn't when this information is all just stuck and cycling inside your head. And also just the process of writing is a creative process itself, so just doing that can be really therapeutic as well. And there's really no rules when it comes to journaling, so you can write about anything that you want, whatever comes to your mind, stream of consciousness style, or if there's a specific situation that you want to get some clarity on, you can try writing about what happened, the event or the situation itself, and then reflecting on how you felt about the situation and how you acted. And then when you read that back to yourself, you may find a new perspective or some new insights. Okay, my third tip is to become curious about your emotions. So I think a lot of the time we're taught to see negative emotions as something bad, as something that need to be suppressed and something we should just forget about. But all of our emotions, whether they're positive or negative, have something important to tell us and they want to be acknowledged. So the more you try to suppress them, the more they can actually grow stronger and more intense, and actually not go away at all. So it actually has the opposite effect. So the next time you feel a strong negative emotion, try to be curious about it. Give it a name, and then ask yourself, okay, my friend didn't call me back. I'm feeling anger right now. What could this anger be telling me? Okay, maybe it's telling me that I feel betrayed in some way by my friend, or I feel hurt. So, okay, what do I do next? Oh, maybe I need to talk to my friend. Maybe I need to tell my friend how I feel. Maybe we need to set some boundaries around communication. So, becoming curious about your emotions can help you to respond to them more effectively. Okay, so my fourth tip is to identify negative thought patterns. So, oftentimes when we're feeling stressed, the way we think about our situations can actually create even more stress and more feelings of overwhelm. So, the next time you're feeling this way, just take a moment to tune into your feelings and what you're thinking about your current situation. So, for example, let's say that I have a presentation coming up and I start to feel really nervous and I have the thoughts that I'm going to mess this up, I'm no good at presentations. You can see how these kinds of thoughts would cause my stress levels to rise even more, right? So what I can do in this moment is try to take a really objective view of these thoughts and almost put them on trial in a way. So I can ask myself, are these thoughts based on facts? Am I having these thoughts based on how I feel? What is the evidence for and against these thoughts? And then when I do this, it can help me create more balanced thoughts and change the way I feel about giving the presentation. Okay, so there you have 4 really great tips that you can use to help cope with your emotions better and reduce stress when your fight or flight mode kicks in. So give these a try. Let me know how they work for you, or if there's anything that you use to cope with stress and manage your difficult emotions. I would love to hear about them. So please could you drop those strategies in the comments below. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer those for you as well. And if you're interested in coaching or counseling, you can book a free discovery call through the link in the description. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this video helpful. I'll see you next week.